9-7 factoring special cases. Okay, the special cases are this. When you have a square in the front of your trinomial and a square at the end of your trinomial, and all of them are pluses, your answer is just going to be the square root of this number first, the square root of the b squared second, and it's going to go in parentheses with a square at the end. What does that mean? AB doesn't, it doesn't make sense to most people. I'll show you in a second. Over here, we have a square in the front, a square at the end, and a minus sign in the middle, and that turns out to be a minus b squared. So these are tricks to doing the factoring the trinomials quickly, and there were a couple on the quiz. Let's look at the ones that they show here. What is the perfect square, or give me one of the perfect squares in this trinomial. What's the perfect square here, Micah? No, I'm talking about at this level here, where is the perfect square? Yes, Jaron. X squared is a perfect square. What's the number out in front of x? A 1. Is 1 a perfect square? Is something times something 1? Yes, 1 times 1 is 1. So it's a perfect square. The other perfect square is 25. So what they do is they put 1x, the 5 and the 5, and the answer turns out to be x plus 5 squared, because there's 2 of them. So when you have a perfect square in the beginning and a perfect square at the end, you can go right to your answer, which is x plus 5 squared. That only works with perfect squares. There was one on the test. It looked a little bit more like this one here. I have a perfect square here, but now I have a minus sign in between. So that's going to be x minus 5, x minus 5. And so you can go right to your answer. You don't even have to do the long method or the short method. This is the shortcut. It's x minus 5 squared. On the quiz, if you recall, there was one with a 49 in it. So I had d squared minus 14d plus 49. Perfect square, minus sign. So you write a minus sign between. And I'm going to do a d here. And what's this one turn into? 7. And just put a square on it. So this would turn into d minus 7, d times d minus 7 when you did it on the shortcut method, or the shorter method. Now you have even a shorter method. When you know they're squares, you just go right to answer. There was another one on there like this, which was even more complicated. And I had several people in here get stumped on this one. 25b squared plus 90b plus 81. Now, you could multiply 25 times 81 and do the long method. And that turned into a large number that people had trouble with. However, if we take, this is a perfect square, I got plus here and another perfect square, so I write the square root of this, so that would be what? 5b. I put a plus because they're all pluses, and the square root of 81 is what? 9. So if you did this along method, you would have gotten 5b plus 9 times 5b plus 9 on your quiz. Or you can do the short method, and you go right to your answer and just put a square there. You can see the difference. Remember, you were trying to figure out factors of, I think it was like 2,000 something. No, it wasn't 2,500. 2025. So people had 20, 25, and you're trying to figure out factors of this. And I think it was like 45 it came out to be. And that was hard for people to, and that's fine. But it was there. This method's a lot easier. Perfect square, go right to your answer. You have to. This doesn't work on everything. It only works on the perfect squares. Yes, Khadija.
So you wouldn't worry about the middle number.
Middle number would come back out when you checked it. When you checked it, the middle number would come back. Okay, here's the third case, and this one's usually the most useful one. A squared minus b squared turns into a minus b, a plus b. Or a plus b, a minus b. A plus b, a minus b. So this is another quick one. We did not have one of these on the quiz. So this one is a perfect square separated by a minus sign turns into x plus the square root, x minus the square root. And when you have over here, perfect square, minus sign, square root, plus square root, minus square root. So there's different cases here. When you have perfect square plus, then you have your middle plus another perfect square, that turns into the square root of the perfect square plus square root of the other perfect square squared. If that makes more sense to you. Maybe it does. Maybe it might make more sense to one person in here. Take the square root of that perfect square. Square root of 16. Well, it's not for 16. Now I'm looking back up here. So perfect square, take the square root, you get that. If it's minus, I'm running out of room here. If these were minuses here, so you got your perfect square minus your middle minus another perfect square, your answer is going to be the square roots minus each other squared. And then if it's perfect square minus perfect square, it's going to be square root plus square root and square root minus square root. That might not make sense to anybody, but it might make sense to someone who sees these as square roots. It's a different way of looking at it. So three situations. All pluses, plus answer. Minus plus, minus answer. So here we got plus 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 turns equals plus. Here minus plus equals minus in your answer. And then down here minus equals plus minus. So again, a different way of looking at it if you think that way. You might not think that way though. Some people think differently here. Okay, so here I could say, well, factors of 9 that add up to negative 6, or I could say minus plus, go right to my answer. I go right to my answer with this. Let me know what it is. Minus plus turns into minus 3 squared. I'll give you these things here. So these are tricks. If I were to box this out, if I were to do a check on this, I would do m minus 3, and it would turn out to be the original question, which is up here. So these are tricks. You can use the long method on these. You could multiply 9 times 1 and do that long method. You could do the shorter method, which is factors of 9 that add up to negative 6. You're still going to get minus 3 and minus 3, m minus 3, m minus 3. Yes.
So you're saying you don't have to
You can do it the long way. That's fine. Yes. It takes longer, but it's fine. Okay. Try these quick checks here using the shortcut method. So look at the shortcut method. So all pluses, you're going to have a plus for your answer, and you're going to square it. They're all, if it's minus plus, you're going to have the other one. And if it's just minus, you'll have the third case, which isn't on here. Well, how do you do letter 1A? Okay, let's not talk about that on the video, please. Thanks, Phoebe. Could you sit up in your chair, please? Thanks. Okay, now let's look at this one. Do we have a perfect square right here? Okay, do we have a perfect square right here? So we can go right to the answer, because it's plus plus. I can go right to my answer. What goes here? 1x, or just an x. What goes here? No. The square root of 16 is 4. Okay, so what I was saying before with the square roots, the square root of x squared plus the square root of 16, and that equals 4 and x. But I don't like to show it that way because it messes people up. So we have a plus plus situation, we have a perfect square and a perfect square, we can go right to the answer. Or you could say factors of 64 that add up to 16, which is really not a stretch. It's just 8 and 8, right? You could do it that way, it's fine. So this is going to be n plus 8 squared. And then the last one, you could go right to the quick answer, n minus 8 squared. Or you could say factors of 64 that add up to negative 16, and that's negative 8 and negative 8. It's going to work. So this is a shortcut method for some people. Everybody doesn't have to use this. I prefer to just do the chart, and they'll only memorize the last one, which is we haven't done yet on a quick check.
Wait, Miss Whitman, is this one?
Now we're moving to the next page. Please raise your hand if you have a question. Yes.
Anyway.
Here. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, we're still doing the same process here, just more examples. Can you use a shortcut method on here, and why? Well, first of all, the area of a square is this. Find the length of the side. Why do they want to factor it to find the length of the side? Because two of the same things multiply together to get the area of the square. So if you can factor that perfect square, you'll get the side. Can we use the shortcut method on this, or do you want to go 25 times 16 and find factors of 16 that add up to 40 and go that way? You don't want to do that. Yes, Kirsten.
Can you use the box method on,
At the end to check it, yes.
Wait, you can't do like, you see how it's like squares, and you can't even fix that whole thing and that whole thing twice? You get what I'm saying? Like,
No, I don't.
like
What I'm saying is you can go right to answer. Because you have two squares, because you have a perfect square here and a perfect square here, and there's plus signs, you can go right to your answer with a plus and a square on it. You just got to figure out what goes in the first box and what goes in the first box. Anybody know?
4.
Nobody knows. So 4H. Okay. How about the second box? What goes there? 5. Very good. Okay. So the side of the square is 4H plus 5. Now, you would use the box method here and see, or FOIL, to see if it matches the answer, the question. So you could use the box method to check. Number 3 is an example of the difference of two perfect squares. Again, there's a lot of work shown here. I could go directly to answer here. Because it's a minus sign, the answer becomes plus and minus, two different parentheses. Or I could say factors of negative 16 that add up to 0, because there's nothing in the middle. What are two numbers that multiply to equal negative 16 and add up to 0? Negative 4 and 4. Okay, so that's just going to be a plus 4, a minus 4. So they show a lot of work here for something that is very doable. Basically, you know, if you can remember these tricks, good. If you can't, you can always do the longer method or the very long method. So these are tricks to help you factor quickly. And on your test on Thursday, there will be these will be on there. So when you come to one that looks crazy like that, like up here in number 2, you would be able to figure it out. And most people would be able to figure out what goes in this box here, which is a 5. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, so looking at number 2, yes we are. Number 2. You can do the long way, the short way, or the shortcut way. It's fine. So last week you would have gone 9 times 4, but now this week you have the short method, or the shortest cut method, whatever you want to call it. And you can go right to answer. But what do we need in here? 3G. Why did I put a minus sign? Minus here. And what do I put here? 2. Or I could multiply 4 times 9, factors of 36 that add up to 12, and use 6 for that, and keep going with it. Squared, yes. Good catch. Good catch, really. Okay, moving on to this one here. Do the shortcut. Or you can multiply 4 times 81. I don't think you want to do that. It's going to take a while. They're both perfect squares. So go right to answer. All pluses, so it's a plus. What's the first term? 2t. What's the second term? 9. Well, raise your hand if you have a question. Yes. To check this, you would do the box method. 2t plus 9. 2t plus 9. When I multiply, I get 4t squared. Here I get 18t. Here I get 18t and 81. And this adds up to 36. Yes, you did. That's why I cut you off when you interrupted me 3 times. Okay, moving back to the next one. Again, everybody in here should be pretty close to being able to do this one here. Use the trick. What do we got for an answer here? Tyler, can you answer this one? 2t minus 9 squared. Good. Don't forget the square. And you could do it the long method. Yes, Khadija. Okay, let's look at these ones. Now we have just a minus sign. It's not minus plus, not plus plus, just a minus sign. So again, the rules were, well, here I have minus plus, so I'm going to have a minus answer. Here I have plus plus, so I have a plus answer. What happens when I have a minus? What's my answer going to be like? It's going to be plus and minus, and it's going to be the same numbers in each spot. And no, that isn't from that movie. Okay, so what is my first thing going to be here? X plus 6x minus 6. Good. Up here, I got the minus sign, so I do the 2 parentheses, one with a plus, one with a minus. What goes first? goes first. Hold on, let other people answer.
Let other people answer.
So what goes first here, Miranda? Yes, very good. Hold on, can we let other people figure this out? And raise your hand and I'll see it. Then you're gonna have to wait patiently. Okay, can you tell me what this is? Can you tell me what this is? This one is. P minus, not 49, minus 7, good. Keep going. Good. Plus 7, very good. Now if I multiply this out using the box method, I would get the original question. Okay, so these are shortcuts. But you could always use factors of negative 49 that add up to 0, and that's negative 7 and 7, and that was on the test, and that's how you did it that way. So you should be a better factorer after today, meaning you should be doing even better than you did before. Yes, Khadija?
See the number 7 on the homework list?
Not yet. I want to keep moving. Yes.
So it doesn't matter like which way.
No, you could have them either way. The plus could be first. The minus could be, doesn't matter. We have a lot more notes to pick up here before we move on. Yes, the homework. Yes, Phoebe.
Can we break them like this? Or is this totally wrong?
That's wrong. In one fraction?
Yeah.
In one? No, that's the minus and plus.
See, if you had answered me earlier, I wouldn't have gotten all wrong.
Yeah, but if you would have just submitted the fact that I wrote it on the board and looked at the answer, you would have figured that out. But you were so intent that I did not call on you because you talked out of turn that you had to correct me. Hence, not good. I'm over it. I'm over it. So, we're recording, by the way. Yes. We are recording. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Okay, the difference of two squares. Okay, we already know how to do this one. But just put a 9 here instead. Okay? Shh. Up here, please. We could go directly to answer. The square root of 9b is 3b. Square root of 25 is 5. And 3b minus 5. So again, we've done these already. You don't even need, you can go right to your answer here. Because you have two perfect squares and a minus sign. So it becomes plus minus. And then you fill in those values. Again, this should be easier to you. You should be like, oh, I can do this. Not, oh, this is more stuff I got to remember. This should help you, not make it worse. Yes, Keisha. Okay, here's a special case where you have to do something before you can get to a factor. And in this case, 5 and 80 are not perfect squares. But if I pull something out of 5 and 80, I can turn them into perfect squares. And that, what I'm going to do is pull a 5 out. Okay, 80 divided by 5 is what? Well, it's 16 if you check it on your calculator. So now I have two perfect squares. So now my answer is going to be that 5 out front. And then I'm going to factor x squared minus 16. Jared, what's the factor of x squared minus 16? X minus 4, x plus 4. Okay. But notice I leave that 5 out here. And then they're going to check it by foiling it and distributing that 5 at the end. And it checks out. So this is a special case. There's two questions on the homework tonight like this. We have to pull something out ahead of time to get it to be a special, or to do the shortcut method. Let's look at these quick checks here, and then we'll move on to doing homework questions. If we can get through these quick checks in a reasonable amount of time, you won't have to do checks on your homework tonight. However, I will use that as a gentle reminder to be disciplined in this class. So, 9b squared minus 4. No middle. There's no middle, so it's plus minus. I got two perfect squares and there's no middle. There's a minus in the middle. It's plus minus. What's the first term, Natalie? Right. What's the second term? Good. What's this? Yes, and this is 2. Do the same thing on the next one. No, because you're multiplying them times themselves. There's no square. If it was just a single, it would be squared. So, can you tell me this one? Can you do this one here? It's plus minus. So 25x squared turns into 5x. Very good. And negative 64 turns into 8. Very good. And then this is just 5x, 8. Very good. Two perfect squares. Again, give me more questions like this because these are doable. Could do the long method. Don't need to though. So you can go right to your answer. Okay, since it's one minus sign and two perfect squares, Jaron can give me this one.
Yes, I can. It is 2.
2w minus and 2w plus 7.
Plus 0.
Okay, moving down to this one here. Now you got to take something out to get it look alike. And I had someone in the other class ask me, what do I take out? Well, think about this. 50 turns easily into what perfect square? 25 by dividing by 2. And 8 divided by 2 turns into a what? Okay, so my question is, can you do this? What's this turn into? 2y. I thought I heard it over there. 2y minus 5, 2y plus 5, and then you just take that 2 and add it to it at the end. So when you have a case like this and you have to pull a number out to get it to be the special case, you just put that number at the end. What do you got to pull out of B? What do we got to pull out of B? Spencer, what do we got to pull out of B? What do we have to pull out of B? 3 is correct. What does it turn into? 3c squared turns into, yeah, minus 25 divided by, or 75 divided by 3, I just said it, is 25. Why is that good? Because it's a single minus, so my answer is going to be plus minus. And the c goes here, c goes here. What goes in these two spots? 5s. And then because I took that 3 out at the beginning, I just put it next to it at the end. Moving to the last one. They're not perfect squares. 7's not a perfect square. What does it need to be? No, can't make it a 4. How do we make 7 a perfect square? 1 is correct. So divide both by 1 or 7. It turns into what? 4k squared minus 1, which turns into, oops, sorry, I messed up. What do those k's need? No. 2k plus 1, 2k minus 1. Okay, and the order doesn't matter how you write those. I usually, it looks like, well, plus minus or minus plus is okay. Again, this should be easier than previous homework. They're shortcuts. So let's look at the homework. Are there questions on the homework? Number 1 tells you the answer right there. We just did it. Number 1 screaming the answer out at you. Spencer, can you do number 1? Use the shortcut. First of all, is it 2 parentheses or 1 squared? It's 2 parentheses. What go in the parentheses? When it's 2 parentheses here, it's going to be plus minus, right? What goes first? What goes last? 3. Done. 7's the same thing, except you got an exponent or a coefficient on x squared. Again, this should be easier. The trick should be easier here. 13 has a few issues. What do you got to do with 13? Take the 3 out, and you got n squared minus 1. What's that? What's n squared minus 1 turn into? N squared minus 1 turns into what? Anybody? N plus 1 and minus 1 with the 3 out front. Okay. Since the class was good, I won't make you do the checks as a reward.